Good afternoon, everyone. This is Karen Mann, the host and co-chair for today's webinar, and I have with me my co-chair, Sudita Hassi. We represent the Human Development and Leadership Division of the American Society for Quality. This is a global division aiming to enrich the personal and professional lives of our members and non-members across the global community. We continuously look for new speakers within the range of body of knowledge that can be found in MyASQ HD&L community site. We host monthly webinars, and if you're interested or knowing more about webinar or our other opportunities that we may have, we would love to speak with you and review them. Before we begin this webinar, let me go over some webinar rules. If there is any question or comment, please type under question tab and we will answer the question. The webinar will be held for 45 minutes and then we will have a Q&A session for 15 minutes. Those who attend for 40 minutes will receive 0.1 CEU through an email which you can save and use to claim your credit with ASQ. Please do stay with us till the very end as we have some special announcements and some new opportunities that we are bringing from our HD&L division. Now I'm delighted to introduce to you our guest speaker for tonight, Nancy Nouaimeh. She's a mom of 2 adolescent triathletes and a wife of a cyclist. In the business world, she is an organizational excellence specialist and total quality management professional with over 18 years of experience. She has a passion for culture transformation and studying what improves the behavior and performance of teams and hence fuel organizational improvements efforts to attain and sustain excellence. Nancy is also a subject matter expert, senior assessor and judge for National Excellence, Innovation and Quality Performance Awards. She has expertise in business and government excellence models and cultural excellence. In addition to CI methodologies, lean and integration ISO standards, coach and trainer, Nancy is well versed in leading teams and transferring knowledge across the organization and externally by presenting her work in international seminars and conferences. She is currently the chair of Geographic Communities Council and ASQ Region Director for EMEA. Nancy, the floor is all yours. I'm very super excited to hear all the good stuff you're going to share with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Karen, and thanks for the HD&L division and for Sudita for organizing these wonderful webinars. I'm very pleased to be with you here today, our attendees. Thank you for being with us. It's my pleasure to be sharing with you some of the work I do. And like Karen started my introduction with the fact that I'm a mom of 2 triathletes and my husband is cyclist, and that's where the idea of this whole webinar came from. I have a daughter and a son. They are 14 and 16, and they've been doing, participating in triathlon since 4 or 5 years now. And it's really nice to see how that have been motivating them to really to progress in this. And I'll be sharing some of those lessons learned in this presentation. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about the social performance management, the model of the peloton, and how we can construct an effective team and high-performing team, and some takeaways at the end. And I will start with the first poll. Sudita, if possible, please.
Yes, so we'll launch the first poll. Just take a few seconds and basically respond to whatever comes first in mind. So in your opinion, who impacts team performance? Could be either or as a solution in this one, higher performance or low performance on the team.
I'm interested to see the percentage.
Yes, I will share that with you.
Yeah, it would be great to see what the attendees think about this. So.
Okay, so we'll wait a few more seconds so everyone can vote. It is, again, either high or low performance that could impact team performance according to your opinion or experience in your team or wherever you have been experienced such. Okay, so 50 voted already. Let's just close this one. And we have good numbers that show actually that 62% high performance and 38% low performance. I don't know if that's what you were expecting.
We'll see in a while when we go through the slides. So thank you very much, everyone, for voting. It's an interesting, in fact, result. And I was expecting it, in fact, but yeah, we'll go through it. Sidita, can we go through the second poll just to know who is familiar with the Tour de France, just to know the knowledge of attendees on this?
Okay, warming up here. So second poll, just to know who are we talking to a little bit, getting to know your experience a little bit better. Have you ever watched the cycling event, the Tour de France? It could be oui.
Oh, I should have put oui or no.
Or no. Okay, so let's just close this one and share the results. One of them, it's me as well. So it'll be interesting to hear your experience with that. We have yes 33 and 67. It's a no, Nancy. So you're gonna share with us a little bit more about that.
I'll try. I'm not the expert in cyclists, but I'll try my best.
Oh, you're an expert in the house.
Great. So let's move on now with our presentation, and then I'll start a little bit. I think most of you have been exposed or been working in high-performing teams, and we know these teams who really are working in harmony. They have synergy and they produce great results. They really don't just happen. They are built, and they are built because certain factors, because certain practices, the way they are managed, and definitely it's about the people in these teams, the team members. So today we're going to be focusing on the peloton as a model of social performance. For those who watched Tour de France are very familiar with this photo and similar photos where they see all these cyclists moving together in harmony, regardless of in which team they are. They just really are, they are racing, and they are racing for a purpose. They are racing trying to win that race for their team. But all of them, they don't have the same performance. All of them, they don't have the same speed. All of them, they are not as skilled as the leaders, but they are all working towards one target. And the social performance management, as it's defined, is a method that focuses on managing individuals as part of a larger work group organization. It looks at how people really interact together in a group. And it looks at how we can really manage the performance of those individuals, not in an isolated way or in isolation, but how can this be managed part of that group? And it looks at the interactions, it looks at the impact of one another, of the members on each other. And this is how we look at it from a social point of view. So we don't really look at the individual performance as independent. We look at them all together as a group. And the performance of employees in the social performance management should be evaluated in the context of the work group they belong to, and never independently, because there's certain interaction, there's certain impact, and that should not be neglected. Now, we all know these elements, I think, from that impacts in human performance. We have internal factors, we have external and tangible ones, which I color-coded for you here. So if we look at the internal one, it's the talent of the individual, his skills, his knowledge. When we look at the external and tangible elements, we look at the things which are really enabling the performance of that individual, the tools, the environment, the incentives that organizations put in place, the information given to him, the job aids, and all what comes around that. And these are things which are impacting him from the outside. And they are really tangible things. The ones which are intangible, but also external, are the ones in green, and they are the leadership and the management. And these also are key. And this is what we're going to be talking about here today. We're talking about how to manage a team and make sure that we provide that social environment that enables its high performance. So these are all elements that are impacting the human performance. And like I said, some of them are internal. So this is up to someone, the team member, to develop. The others are provided. And there are things tangible we put in place in the organization. And definitely the ones which are really having high impact are how this person is managed individually or within a team. Now, if you go back to the individual performance, and there are two, I think, reasons why we do that, in fact, and we focus on the individual performance within that social environment. because SPM believes that it's important to maximize the individual performance by creating cultures that unlock and inspire people's full potential. And when we talk about people here, usually, if I'm going to be sharing some examples also about this, is usually people and organizations and the managers and leaders, if there are certain studies that demonstrated they mostly focus on the high performers in the organization, because this is where you see the results, this is where you really get tangible outcome. You can see that if they are leading, if they are in projects, you can see that the end results are really higher than with the lower performers. So that's why the focus mostly and usually is on these high performers. But that's not really, I mean, shouldn't only be the case. And the social performance management focuses on the performance of the high performance, but also on the low performance. And the other element is, and the other principle is to understand the impact of individual actions of each member on the overall group dynamics. And we cannot really look, I think, like I said initially, look at the performance independently. So we need to understand how people behavior, how people attitude, how people performance also impacts others. And this is where the social performance comes in place. And it's really important to understand the performance of people, to define that, to understand how we can define it within that group, by what it is influenced, and how really we can define that determine that performance. So these things are very important when it comes to the individual performance, and will definitely have an impact on the group performance overall. So for social performance, social performance management, we really need to look at how the group overall interacts together, and what are the things that are making internally people perform better, whether the low performers or the high performers. Increasing performance at the top often requires improving performance at the bottom. There's a nice article, white article by SAP about the social performance, and they demonstrate a lot of examples from the US Navy SEAL, from the Juilliard School of Music, that's really demonstrating that you cannot really increase performance at the top without really working on improving the performance of the people at the bottom. And when we talk about the bottom, it's not hierarchy. Here we're talking about the performance and the lower performance. So once you really have a team, you need to understand and you need to categorize that performance within that team to understand how to drive a higher performance. And in the peloton, usually everyone has a role. I'm going to be sharing with you some of the roles within the peloton to understand how it's important that and how everyone in the group is important to improve the performance of the overall group. Now, the social performance in the peloton, and that's, I'll go back to Juilliard School of Music, and you see you have the violinists, for example. You have the first one, the second one, and then they have different performance. Definitely, that's why one is called the first violinist and the second one is the second. But both of them have been selected to be part of that school, right? Because they have at the base the right skills, the right attitude, and they demonstrated a good performance to be there. But one of them is the second and one of them is the first. But the second one is as important as the first one for the performance of the group, not just because of its own performance, because it's always, that person has always a lot of things also to share with the others and for others to learn from. And once you have that differences in a group, this really drives, and especially for high-performing groups like the musicians and the orchestra, they really learn from each other. And if someone doesn't have really that motivation to do the best, the whole group's gonna fail at the end. So they positively impact each other, same as the peloton. In the peloton, and I'll go in deeper in this in a while, that performance of everyone is impacting, because if you have, for example, in this group here, you have the leader, and then you have the back of the peloton, right? So the leader, everyone understands that they're not going to be the first, they're not going to be the leader, they don't have that enough speed or enough strength or enough endurance to be the leader of that group. But all of them are trying not to be the last one in the group, because the last one also will have a negative impact on the peloton. So all of them are really trying hard, they're doing their best, And that's what drives the performance within that peloton, because each one of this group here, if you see, they have different colors, jerseys, because they are different from different groups, but they are all of them trying their best to move forward to especially in the Tour de France. For those who watch Tour de France, they know sometimes the conditions are very harsh, and you see you have the mountains and you have the the rain, and you have all of these conditions which are really hard for on people to cope with. So they all perform and to their best abilities, trying to keep the peloton moving forward. And that's really very important for the performance. The lower performance, because they're trying not to be the last, they are really pushing hard, and that really increases their performance. And those on the top are impacted by the speed of the people behind them. So if everybody's driving forward and really pushing hard, you'll see the peloton keeps moving forward. And that's really important, that this is where the impact of the social performance comes in. Now, this is an example, of the orchestra. It's really, I think we see it that everyone tries hard to make sure that everyone does their best job in the orchestra. And what we see is the outcome of all of these performances. Not all of them are high performance. They are, I think at this level, they're definitely high performance, but we see differences in performance, which is really getting to a place where it's giving us the best of that orchestra. And this is really an example of the impact of everyone, and the competitive and the competitiveness that you see within these groups is really leading everyone to give its best. Now, I'll go very quickly here in the SPC categories of riders. So for the peloton, there are 5, and you saw in the previous, I think the peloton all together. Here there are 5 different categories, and for those who watch Tour de France or any race, peloton race, they see that there are usually 5 different categories. The first one is breakaway riders, and the breakaway riders are those who have a good shot at winning at an intermediate sprint or being the first over a summit. So they really break away from the group. They have an internal self-motivation. They change constantly. At a certain point, you have one of the peloton who breaks away, try to have that race, and then at another point you'll have someone else also breaking away. So they have really that self-motivation. They try to demonstrate at the point how good they are, but they are not really the best. Some of them could be the best, some of them are not, but they have that motivation to demonstrate what they can do. And usually it's about being the right person, being in the right place at the right time. The second category of riders are the leading edge riders. Here you see one peloton, which is like an arrow, the head of the arrow. Because there are a few different ways the peloton usually can move together. The speed of these riders is partially influenced by looking at the breakaway riders they hope to catch, because the peloton tries really hard to keep moving forward to try to catch up the riders who broke away earlier. They are influenced by how fast are the people riding in the peloton behind them. If the people behind you are really fast, they're going to drive everyone in front of them to move quickly. And this is really one of the key things, how the peloton really keeps moving forward. The self-identity is one of, I may not be the fastest in the race, but I'm the fastest in the peloton. And they keep racing within the peloton. You see those people on the leading edge here, they are really trying hard to remain in that position. And they are really driven by the performance of the people behind them. So each one of these riders here is really having a great impact on the peloton itself. The solid riders, if I go back here, you see these people here. They're not on the top, they're not in the back. Those are the solid riders. They are in the middle of the peloton. They're not the fastest, but not the slowest either. So some may be former breakaway people who are recovering, or leading edge riders who really can't move ahead anymore. So they just get some rest within the core of the peloton. Their speed is highly impacted by the riders immediately in front of them and behind them. Because if someone slows from the front, it will slow them, and if the people behind them slow, that will also slow them. So this is the third category. The fourth category here, from the back of the peloton, we see the trailers, those who are trying not to lose the group. They could be intentionally slow, they could be struggling to keep up. Those are what we consider the low performers. Their speed is highly influenced by the solid riders in front of them. So if those riders are pushing, they're going to try their best to push to remain within the peloton. Because if they lose the peloton, it's kind of they lose their chance of continuing and having a good achievement at the end. In turn, this influences the speed of the leading edge riders. So if those trailers here get slow, then the peloton's gonna slow, and then the leading edge rider is gonna lose also from their speed. And for those who are familiar, I'm not really a cyclist. That's said my family, I mean my husband and kids are, and I hear them a lot of talking about the wind and how the wind is impacting the peloton and how those people in front are protecting also the people behind. And it's really hard if you have wind facing you to keep moving forward. So all of these elements, they impact the peloton in a way, but it also depends on the people who are, the performance of the people within the peloton. And that's why the people in front are really key, but also the people in the back, if they are not really coping with that, it's gonna be a problem for the entire peloton. So moving to the, so just in sum, the speed of the entire peloton depends in part on the speed of the trailers riding in the back. So these people, if they really lose the peloton, I think the peloton slowly gonna get also lose of its impact and of its speed. Now the stragglers are the people who are struggling to finish the ride. They are at the back. They are really the lowest performance and they can't really cope. So this is really, I think, one of the group, which is if it's not really taken care of and social performance, they're gonna really, if they are within the peloton and they lose that peloton, they're gonna be having a negative impact on the peloton. So it's important by understanding these categories of riders within the peloton and how the peloton work and how the social performance is impacting the teams, it's important to categorize people based on the performance. But it's very critical to do it in the right way. It's not here just to come and to categorize people and say you're good, you're bad, your middle. That's not the point of it. And if it's not done right, it has a negative impact on how teams are working together. So it's important, I think, to look at as a manager or as a leader, it's important to understand the performance of the people within your team, to understand how to categorize that, to be able to manage. And like I said earlier, it's important to look at the low performance. We can not just from an appraisal point of view, where you come and just say, okay, he's a low performer, I need to give him a development plan for 3 months, doesn't work, then either I move him somewhere else or I'll take another action. It's really because that impacts the overall performance of the team. And the low performance, if they are well recruited based on their skills, on their attitude, that definitely working with them and putting enough effort on managing them and managing their performance and driving that towards a better performance, that definitely could have a positive impact on the team, because it's always easier, I think, to keep the people you have and get better results from them than really changing those team members, especially if they have a good background, if they have a good culture, but they're not able to deliver to the expectations. So working with them specifically more than the high performers could really make a big change in the team. And I've had this experience recently where one of my team members haven't been really performing well. And when I really put my I think the right effort into working with him individually rather than the others who are giving me my expectations, I really saw a change. So once really I got determined to work with him, and we had that discussion about how to make sure that he understands what the expectations are, what we really want to achieve with him, and where are we really and how that really falls within the entire group and how it's impacting negatively the entire group when he is not performing. That really made a big change in the way we work together. And I think to the point where we really touched to that negative impact that he's having on the entire team sometimes when his work is not complete or when his work is not really on time, that really made a big change, because he understood how he can really make that shift to support the team and deliver better. So it's important, I think, to really look at the performance and categorize employees and look at the effort and the time you want to spend on each of the categories, but mind that it could become negative if it's not really well done. So this is from the same white paper, which is a peloton model of social performance management. And I like the way they put this, because it's really, if we ignore the differences, the performance differences is really something which will lead the team to have maybe a negative culture within the team. And it's really something unfair and unproductive, because everyone in the team requires the attention and requires the same, that we give the same importance to the performance of that person, and on the same time making sure that that person feels respected and feels that his work is valued, same like anybody else. And usually that positive approach from managers make a big difference when we manage teams. So here, if you look at it from when we spoke about the breakaway contributors, leading edge contributors, solid contributors, and these are tips on how these could be managed and with a different way of management from each one of them to make sure that you get the best result out of them. So the breakaway, you can look at it as someone in the team sometimes has fluctuating performance and he tries always maybe to show like differentiate himself from the team. So those ones require recognition of the degree of the impact they are having, and they like to work with other breakaway contributors and they don't like to work with strugglers. So it's really important to understand how these people work to be able to manage them. Leading edge contributors, they like to be appreciated for their contribution and they know that they are better than average. So they need also that understanding between them and the manager that they are really high performing. They can do the job, but also at the same time, they need to understand that others are also as important in the team. The opportunity, they like the opportunity to work and become breakaway performers sometimes. So they like to show really that talent they have. Solid contributors, they're being appreciated for their contributions and supported for their loyalty. And if you think about it, when you have those people in the middle of the peloton, and usually they remain in that position unless they really develop themselves to a certain extent. Those people are really the one who are loyal to everyone in the team, and they really don't think about like he's gonna win and not me, and I'm supporting him and I'm not supporting, you know. So they don't have that mindset that I need to work for myself. They have the mindset saying that I need to work for the team. And it's really important, and this shows loyalty. They're being given guidance. They should be given guidance and opportunity to become leading edge contributor if they have that talent. So if the manager of that group works with them to develop their talent more, they could become leading edge contributors. Trailing contributors, they believe the company truly supports their improvement and recognize their challenge. So once you support that group, you will see at least that they are doing, they're giving their best to improve. And one of the things is that to know that they need to change to get back to being a solid contributors. If they become trailers at a certain point, if they have been in the solid contributor before, then that's an opportunity to bring them back. Some of them, maybe they are still in a trailing position from the beginning, so those people need a different support. The stragglers, they're being treated with respect. It's very important to maintain a positive culture, even though they may not be in the right role. So here it's important to look at those low performance and see whether they need to remain within that role or we change them to a different role. This also go back to the skills of the person and the capabilities of the person. Specific action plans with tangible and immediate consequences. So this is it's really what's needed to be done with these people, is that they need to be really managed and an action taken to make them either improve in that position or change somewhere else. Now, let's talk a little bit about how to construct an effective team. And I'm very proud to share with you this photo. This is my son last year here in Dubai in the desert. He's racing with adults. And at the point, we were a little bit hesitant about his performance because, you know, we were expecting a lot from him, but there was something blocking him. We knew that he had great talent, but there was something in him blocking him. And then we really looked and we had to read a little bit about how to motivate an adolescent for 15 years old. And we found certain things. And I think it really falls in these statements which you see here. So from our side as parents, we really tried our best to provide a supportive environment, and effective teams require the same. You need to provide to your team based on what their role is, based on what they want to achieve and how they work together. You need to provide a supportive environment. You need to give the team a compelling direction. They need to focus on where they need to go, and they need to know where they want to go. So that the direction comes usually from the management, from the leadership. And the diversity of composition is really critical. We're going to be talking a little bit about it in details. The most important, I think, is effective practices. If the team doesn't have effective practices, even if you give them a good environment, a compelling direction, and you have a diverse team, you need also, if they don't have the practices that will make them really work better together and glue as a team better together, you won't be able really to achieve a high-performing team. So the effective practices really helped my son a lot, because we focused with him at a point of what needs to be done. We had someone supporting him, and that person had the skills, in fact, to motivate him more than us, because we were not really knowing how to do that. And once he got into that and he started working with groups, like he is a person who doesn't really like to work individually, so he always liked the group activities and sports, and when he were practicing alone, it was not really motivating him. The fact that he was in a team or racing, that really brought the best out of him, and that's why we put him in a group, we put him in a club to be part of that, and then he started developing on his own, seeing what's his strengths, what's his weakness, and trying to work on these things with the person, with the coach who's supporting him. So it was very important to refine the practices that are needed for him to keep improving. And all of these, what you see here on the screen, the first four ones, they really support having psychological safety in teams, and that's really critical. And for all of us in the pandemic, and with the job loss that happened, and with the remote work, and I think people morale was really low, and still I think low till now because of the pandemic. We all understood how important is it to have psychological safety in teams, and that's really very, very important. And having a good environment, compelling direction, diversity, good practices in place, that definitely supports psychological safety, which by its own has its own elements to focus on. Very quickly now, just for the sake of time. For the supportive environment and culture, I just want to share quickly the shingle model, which I work with for culture transformation. The shingle model has a culture at its core. See, all of us are all quality professionals, work with systems, tools, we focus on results, KPIs, matrices. But what the shingle model did, the studies of the shingle model demonstrated that for any improvements you put in place, sometimes you see that the results go down after a certain period, whether with lean or other programs that companies put in place. We didn't see a constant improvement with the time. Why the reason is really the culture of people, and that culture is really impacted by guiding principles, the excellence guiding principles. And the culture of people is really all about the behavior of people. And for the shingle model, I'm not going to go into details, but just the 10 guiding principles focuses on enterprise alignment, continuous improvement, cultural enablers. And I wanted to share with you for cultural enablers here, which is all about people, is respecting every individual and leading with humility. And these are very important for people, and to have the right environment in place. And the shingle model, I think the importance of it is that it focuses on the behavior of executives, managers, and team members. So each one of these groups of people, which is categorized by the model, by the Shingle Institute, are really important. And each one of them, for each of the principles, they have really a set of behaviors. So when we talk about the social performance, we're talking about the behavior of the people who are low performers, high performers, and we're talking about the managers, and how the managers really provide that environment for people to be able to perform and excel. The compelling direction, I think we're all of us familiar with the vision and of organizations, and how the vision is very important to drive people towards the same direction and having shared goals. I think the most important for this direction to be clear, to be challenging, achievable, consequential, and engaging. And it's the way it's formulated, the way it's demonstrated within the behavior of people in the organization, of the leaders, and for everyone in the organization has an impact towards making sure that everyone is engaged and we have clarity in what we're doing at all levels. Diversity of composition at 3 levels. When we talk about diversity, we talk about diversity of roles within the organization and the teams, of course, but also we talk about diversity of identity, all the demographics we know, the gender, the nationality, the ethnicity, all of these. We talk also about cognitive diversity also, and it's the way about the thinking of people. We don't want to replicate same members with the same thinking in a team. We want to have diversity in thinking. We want to have diversity of creativity, diversity in different things that makes the team really more rich. And when we nurture this diversity in teams, definitely we can see a better impact. So a diverse team should ideally draw on a broad range of stakeholders groups, including a mix of capabilities, disciplines, personality, risk appetite, and cognitive styles. And it's very important. You cannot just have a team. If you look at the peloton, you see team members from different nationalities in a group, right? So I know the UAE team, I think the leader is somewhere from East Europe. So all of these teams, they look at diversity and diversity in the roles that we have within the team, and diversity of talent and diversity of styles. And it's very important to have that within a team. Going back to the diversity of roles in the Tour de France, it's very important also. I think this demonstrates how important is it to recognize everyone's strengths in the team, and that everyone in the team knows how they can contribute to the success of the group. And these are the 5 key roles which I know about, and I'm sure that they are the right ones. There might be other roles, but these are the key ones. So the team leaders is the strongest all-rounder cyclist who has the best chance of winning the event. The team captains, they are experienced cyclists who plays a management role within the cycling team while on the road. The domestics, who play a supporting role for a select race stage, often creating slipstreams to conserve energy of the team leader. And for those who know Tour de France would realize this at different stages. I hear my family screaming when someone is breaking away, but I know that behind that you'll see people also preparing for that, and you'll see also some people working behind the team leader to make sure that he has the right environment, the right atmosphere to keep going on to win the race. The climbers, they are the cyclists whose strength is hill climbing and who support the team leader in steep terrain or contest to win hilly stages, and the climbers usually are strong enough to be the team leaders if that the occasion is there. Sprinters, they are cyclists whose strength is speed over flat distance in the Tour de France. Sorry, I missed the E here. These riders contest for the green jersey, which is awarded for points from stage wins and intermittent sprints. So the sprinters, like they say, their name says, they are sprinters. They are very, they know how to win over flat distances because they're very fast. And the climbers, they have that endurance to go in steep mountains and steep, in harsh conditions also. And we saw them, I think, in this Tour de France. So this just to tell you that when we see a peloton and finally one person wins, it's a group of people who are working together. And if those group of people don't know how to work together and they don't know how they impact each other and the strengths of each other, definitely that team won't win. And I think it's a great example if you have the chance to go see some of the Tour de France videos to see how those teams work together, especially at the end when they are about to reach to the finish line. Effective practices, it's very important for us as quality professionals who are really, I think we know how important for us is really to focus on the standardization and the processes and all that. But when it comes to teams and the challenges the teams are facing, it's important to look at all these solutions, to look at the challenges and the solutions to these challenges, and try to identify good practices here and there that helps the team. When we talk about diversity, when we talk about, collaboration on all of this, sometimes we don't really look at them when we look at the processes, but they are critical for the success of every team. So if you know your team members, if you know exactly their strengths and their performance and what are the gaps there, you'll be able to put those good practices in place to support them achieve better. Psychological safety, so I think maybe you're familiar with these. So it's really about promoting self-awareness for people to understand if they have any issues at a point, demonstrate concern for team members as people. We go back to human-centric culture. We go back here to really focusing on empathy, focusing on understanding people and listening to people. Actively solicit questions from people to try to understand if there are any issues, any violations happening that could really hinder their performance. Provide multiple ways for team members to share their thoughts. And we spoke about cognitive diversity. So we need to facilitate that sharing of ideas and sharing of thoughts within a team, not necessarily so it's a suggestion scheme, but have that known to people that they can share, they can have open door, you have an open door policy, they can come, they can really share their ideas, or you intentionally solicit that in meetings. Show value and appreciation for ideas, it's very important. Sometimes we do forget that. A small thank you is very important sometimes for people to understand, to feel that they are valued. Promote positive dialogue and discussion within a team that really supports psychological safety, because people feel that they can really say and share and they are listened to, and it's very important for them to feel safe within the work environment and within their teams. Be precise with information, expectations, and commitments. If you don't have that, you can't expect people to know what you want from them, and that really by itself generates other issues within the team. Explain reasons for change is very important. When there's any change of any nature, it's very important to explain to people why. And I think all of us are familiar with Simon Sinek and the why. So we start with the why always to make people understand what are we intending by that change. Own up to mistakes. It's something which is very important for everyone in the organization and at all levels, even at a managerial level. Now, the benefits of psychological safety is we feel like a respected part of the team. We see the value of the work, of everyone's work. And especially people, I mean, they really like to see that they are contributing. And one of the things I think which make people give more is that they are really, they believe that they are valued and their contribution is valued. Feel expected for who they are and the unique strengths they bring to the team. And this is very important because even low performers, they have something they could be excelling with, right? And that's why maybe sometimes they are in the wrong role. You could have people who are creative in place where you don't require creativity. So they need to move them. So low performance really need to be looked at, and they need to be looked at in the bigger group of a team. Now, I'm not going to go much in this. It's just the concept of team of teams. There was a lot of articles around it. But I think we're more, if you look now, we moved from these styles of management and the command, and we see more teams, especially with the hybrid and the remote work and all this. We see a lot of teams working, closely together, and we don't have that hierarchy anymore. A lot of organizations moved from that hierarchy to certain flat organization, more flat than before. So then what makes these organization work is those teams within the organization. And we also look at, we encourage self-directed teams, right? So it's very important to look at the dynamics within the team here, but what makes this team work is a trust, clear roles, clear direction, people with the right skills, right attitude, and having the right culture in place. And then you can expect from your teams to perform really well. Now, just about growth, culture, and learning, and I think I'm still okay on the time. So I think what's important in a team member before the social performance thing is to have that growth mindset. And if you have people who have a growth mindset, even if they're not performing well, at a point you can move them and you can improve and shift their performance. And as leaders, we need to really focus on a growth mindset and growth culture within the workplace and within the team, and how to promote the learning approach and methodologies within the team. So as quality professionals, I think for long we've been performance obsessed, just focusing on KPIs, focusing on getting better results and continuous improvement, and making sure that our processes are working to their best capabilities and all that. I think it's important to focus on the culture within the team and the growth culture, and we need to encourage that. There's a lot of books around that, and when we lead, we need to I think, and this is what the social performance is about 1 + 1, it's not equal to 1 + 1 is much more than that, and this is the multiplier effect. You are really adding. The middle people, they are adding to the people in front and the people in the back, right? The middle of the peloton. The leader is adding to everyone behind him because he's driving everyone back, everyone up. The people in the back, they're pushing everyone also. So that effect is really important to understand within a team. And it's important to create a safe space to learn and generate ideas. So this is on us, I think, to have that for everyone in the organization. And once you have that, people know that the mechanism is in place, that they know that they have the freedom to go and learn and test and experiment. And this is really important for their growth. Cross-silo dialogues, I think we promote this also, like we need to have cross-functional teams, cross-silos dialogue within the organization, which will really bring open the mind of people to different opportunities, and people will start thinking differently. Nurture agility and adaptability within an organization, it's very important. I believe in processes, I believe in standardization, but at a certain point I also believe that we need certain flexibility and we need to be adaptable. And I think the pandemic taught us that if we're not adaptable, we're not resilient enough to, and then I think a lot of organizations struggled, and they are still struggling from not being adaptable and resilient. And this depends also on the people and the processes you put in place. Increased frequency of performance feedback is very important. We should not just wait for the appraisal. Constant feedback at every moment is really important when something needs to be passed on, any message needs to be passed on to the members. Just before come to the closure of this session, I just want to, I like this and I always share it because it's an ad for Ford when they wanted to introduce a new car. They had this ad, which is unlearn. And it's important for us to let go of what we know sometimes to be able to open space and have that that mindset to absorb new things. And I think it's a great message that Ford put on because they wanted people to forget about the old models to focus on the new one, and that was very important. And I think we have to unlearn to learn. And we see a lot of articles on this, and it's important for I think any team, social, whether we're focusing on social performance or not, or the individuals within the team, is important to be able to unlearn, to learn new things. And I think this is really very, very predominant now in all the discussions that about learning and about growth. Now, just also as a leader, we need to really make sure that we have that growth mindset first before we really work on the mindset of others. Now, the key takeaways from today is that to me, and I think to what I saw in the articles that I've read and what I know from the peloton, from the experience of my family, is that it's really important. The social performance management is very important because it really drives higher performance. And the peloton model is something where it looks like for cyclists only, it's something we can really look at and take those good elements and use in our workplace. It's important to prioritize employees' performance, but be careful not to really fall in the trap where you really not understand it well and do it for the wrong reasons. Because if you don't do it right, then you can maybe have a negative impact on everyone in your organization and your team. That there is a difference in team members' performance. That's something which should be positive in a team. If your team members have the right skills, the right attitude, I think it's the best to do is really to focus on the low performance and to make sure that by having them deliver better, they're gonna really drive a better performance with the people who are really performing initially at a high level. Because those people, when in high performance, is someone who really is, who initially didn't perform well, give more and provide better results. Definitely, it's gonna they're gonna lead to that high performing, focusing more and delivering even better. So it's important that comparison between teams, if it's a healthy comparison, we call it healthy competitiveness. It's very important because people like to really to look at each other, what they're doing, to see how we are recognizing someone else, and just that jealousy is important. And it's healthy sometimes for people to be able to do more and more. And when they do more, they deliver a higher performance and better results. So that's positive, could be really that positive competitiveness, healthy competitiveness could be leveraged in a team by really pushing those high performers to a really low performers to a better place. Create a supportive and safe environment for hypo teams. And I think it's very important to look at psychological safety and to provide the support to everyone in the team to make sure that the overall environment and overall culture is really a positive one for the team to perform better. So I do thank you very much for listening, and I do hope that this brought you something different. We all, I think, work with high-performing teams, and we know those basics for high-performing team, but I think it's important to look at the interaction between team members, which sometimes is not something we focus on. And there's a lot of studies that demonstrate it's really something, that's the thing to focus on and to do when you want to really make sure that everyone in the team is performing better, and that really generates better performance overall. So I do believe in the strengths of social performance, and I do believe in the strengths of and the impact of people on each other, and how we can maximize the potential of people by focusing on that and understanding in a team how things are, the dynamics of the team, how things are, how one is impacting the other, what are the things that the team really appreciate, and how to nurture that, and that really drives better performance. So thank you very much for listening. And Sudita, I think I'm ready for questions if the attendees have questions at this stage.
Thank you, Nancy. It's always a pleasure to have you here and share this depth experience you have in the subject of culture of excellence. But I'm glad that this time actually we're bringing sports in it as well. Like research has shown that sports, it's a good example when it comes to leadership, especially when it comes to team dynamics. So this was a very interesting approach, and as we open to the question and answer, so feel free everyone to ask the questions you might have. One of the questions was actually, do you see a similarity between this and when we think about Wolf's way of being in group in packs? I think there was a movie as well about it. I recall watching it in a leadership class. It talks about how they are organized and this difference in roles that you mentioned, which was very interesting to see, and how they use the skill set of different members in a team.
So, Sita, can you just give me the core of the question? Is it the question, right? It's
The question was basically, do you see a similarity between this sport and the wolves packing, the way they walk together and they guide the whole group, basically?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember that, but I know about the wolves, and also my son is really, when he was young, he was really fan of wolves and stuff. I think the way they protect each other, the way they care for each other also in the pack, and the way they have different roles also is really, I think, similar to this, because what I remember from that movie is that they have different roles, and there's that caring and that protection even, which is very important. And I think in the team, yeah, the manager also in the team, I think the team manager in the peloton, the team manager is really has that role, and that what we do as leaders, as members, and as managers is really we care about our people. If we don't care about people, we don't expect our people to be willing enough to work for us and do good working with us, you know. So I think that caring and that protection is important, and it's part of psychological safety. But also, if you are a head of department, you want to make sure that your team, they don't have issues, they don't have with anyone outside. You want to make sure that if they have anything in their personal life, that you could support also, but also it's not impacting the team. So that protection, that caring is there also, I think, and in the peloton or in our work as manager, and it's very important, I think, to have that, and that falls under psychological safety too. So.
And I'm glad you mentioned, linking to this, you just said, the competitiveness. It can be also positive and motivating, like seeing where others are. If it is, as you said, a safety environment, that could feel motivating rather than feeling like, oh, that person is in front of me. And it's linked to, I would say, you mentioned a bit about the performance reviews, which is a topic that keeps coming over and over. That once a year, it's not the best, most efficient way to do it. And the continuous feedback, it makes me think that we do need to be conscious about being a great leader, caring leader, and provide feedback, etc. But also organizations need to have a structure. And I guess this is my question. Do you see organizations having a structure built for it that guides managers and leaders, informal leaders, whoever that is, to actually act that way? Because you could be a good leader, but then if you are asked for once a year feedback or like a bonus, basically based on just how good you have been performing, and then you see your teammates have gotten a bigger bonus because they perform better, you perform less, and you're just giving a lower bonus, and it ends with that. That is not a structure that supports what we're saying here. Do you feel organizations are doing both? Like, yes, educate team members to be leaders, and at the same time have a structure for it?
Yeah, there was an article, I think, Sadita, a couple of years back about some organization who moved from this yearly appraisal. If the yearly appraisal is just a yearly appraisal and there's nothing, like you said, other things that the managers and organization is doing at the other time of the year, the appraisal itself is not enough. And some appraisals also are not really well done, so it just doesn't really give you the added value you expect to see from them. Because yeah, they're done, maybe it depends on the criteria you put there, it depends on how. And when your objectives change or when the organization change, if you don't change your system quickly to adapt to that change, it also could deviate or from what the purpose that you want or what you wanted to achieve with it. So organization, I think what I've seen lately and what I know is that feedback, some people some managers, they have weekly meetings and give quick feedback. Some of them, they give feedback based on every work that's happening, or not necessarily based on matrices, but if you work with a team or with someone, you give them instant feedback, positive or negative. So there are different mechanisms that good organization use for feedback. Some of them are very structured. Some of them are, that prompt. And the managers is the way also the managers are developed and the manager are taught to do. So that instant feedback is really creating a very good, positive, I think, impact on people, because if something goes wrong, you immediately come and talk to your staff, or if it's something they did something good, you immediately give them that positive feedback. The most important, I think, to have that constructive dialogue and not a negative dialogue with your team members, and that really helps a lot, I think. And I noticed this a lot of time, and just I'm going to give example not from the corporate, which I really believe, starting to believe that's really very positive, is that my daughter, she's in a bilingual curriculum, American English and French. The French are a little bit they don't praise students a lot, They're very harsh sometimes in the way they give comments, and the American and the British teachers, they have that methodology of continuous empowerment, continuous, positivity. They always start with something positive, and then they give you the feedback. That really makes a change. I think the way the kids which are in my daughter class, and they are really, you feel that they're empowered. They don't really, they're not scared of trying anything. They're not scared to say their opinion. They're not scared to really say when they don't know. While the other part, we're really different methodology. You see that still there's something blocking the student from giving to their best abilities, because they don't have that constant empowerment. And I think this really, in the corporate world, is the same. So it's really important to keep giving feedback, whether it's negative or positive, but just also try to empower the people by making them believe that they can do better, they can perform better, and that don't really feel, don't put them in a corner where you cannot perform and you're doing wrong and all that, because I think that's really impacts negatively on their morale first and then their performance. So it's a positive way, constructive. I think it's very important.
Positive psychology, it's been proven to be very important, and I think we keep saying it to every webinar, it has to be authentic, because I've seen leaders where they now learn, because there's so much you can read about, and wherever you go in social media, you can hear about positive psychology and sharing positive feedback as well. But at the same time, I feel like people can feel when you are not authentic, when you're just trying to open in a positive way, and then the person will feel like, okay, then what? Like, just skip this nicey talk and then go to the point. So it does have to be a balanced and an authentic way to get there. So let's take another question here. We have Andrew saying, as with a peloton, should I understand the philosophy of this approach? Is it best to understand and assign tasks to each member based on, actually I'm glad he's bringing this up, based on their specific skill set and competence, rather than pushing them to perform in areas where they may not perform as well? Because we spoke mostly about high and low, we didn't really speak about this person is good at this, rather than this person has reached to this level. More
I think this is exactly what should happen, and you need to really look at the people and where they fit and what they can do and their capabilities, and based on that, and that's why I think I spoke about the roles also. So you assign roles based on what people can do, but also you need to mind that you have a team and you need specific roles in that team. So if a person doesn't fit any of the roles, you need to move him out or put him in a different department or in a different, So it's a combination of different things. So performance comes from the background, the skills, the attitude, the person's ability and potential. So if someone is not reaching his potential, and in the current role, we definitely need to change that. And also, like I think I've mentioned that some people are very creative and they don't fit, for example, to manage a process, because they have that different mindset. So different, their build is different. So you need to put them in a different role. So definitely you need to look at the roles, but depends all on your organization and your needs also.
So they get to rotate. As Gilberto, glad to see you're back to our webinars here. So do we have any rotation of these members? So do they get to try where they fit according to, okay, how much they can reach that level, but do they get to change these roles as they progress, or they see a better fit?
Definitely, this is part of the manager to keep an eye on them when they are training, when they are, they're doing races, and see what best fits them. So that's definitely the manager role, and HR could help also, assessing those people and what they are good at, and depends on your work and what your work needs. So definitely they could evolve. And even I think one of like the middle people, the middle people in the peloton could become leading edge at a point if they are really performing, continuously performing in a different way. They could become, and they develop the leadership skills, they could be really at the top. So definitely roles will change based on the capability of people and what they are delivering.
And so as you kind of responded to our first question from Orlando, glad to have you always here. Thanks for joining on today as well. So it does require to have a growth mindset from the leader itself, basically, who's making these selections. But you also mentioned it should be both ways, if I recalled it properly somewhere in the midst of the presentation, because the person might be capable of doing something, doesn't mean that he enjoys it there, that area. Maybe people are good at something, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it. As with our lives as well, we might be good in certain direction, but then maybe you are a better fit and a better contribution to another, and you enjoy it more to another direction as well. So do you see this choice of the person as well, a team member, where he wants to be in this particular sport, I would say, rather than the organization itself? Is that something that they are asked of, or this evaluation is done together, or is it one way?
I think that's where the good performance appraisal system plays a role. That's why some appraisal systems are not really working, because they're just focusing on performance and results, and they don't have that dialogue. You don't see that question asking, are you happy with what you're doing? Are you satisfied? Is there anything else you can do for the organization? Do you see yourself in this role after 2-3 years, or there's something else you want to do? So these questions in appraisal, this is where the dialogue happens. It could happen spontaneously in any discussion. If a manager is really keeping an eye on his people and he feels that someone is really not, there's something wrong in the performance of one person in a different area, for example, he can understand that there's something, maybe the guy he doesn't like what you're doing, or so. But in a formal appraisal which asks these questions and open the door for that dialogue, this is where it's really critical to have in an organization. And that's why the performance management system and the appraisals needs to have that, and a lot of them they don't, because they just focus on, you have your objectives, you have your achievement, and where are you, what have you done? So definitely that's important to have.
That's all important, Nancy, and thanks so much again for sharing and being such a continuous contributor to our division and members and non-members. We're glad to share that we will have our yearly international webinar in Arabic, actually, November 17. And we are also looking into getting more feedback from our members. So that's important for you to know that we will have our town hall meeting on December 15, where we'll actually discuss what we have been working on this year beyond the webinars. And we're looking into finding new ways to deliver our value to our members and non-members as well. So please use, there is a survey that will come out as usual, but also added there a question about your feedback. We're thinking about maybe a conference day or some panel discussions, bring more speakers into the same topic, having some office hours maybe where you come and ask what kind of issues you have on a more frequent basis, on a more case scenario, like Nancy just did with the sports example here. It's important for us to know how would you like us to actually help you more. So please use that. There will be opportunities for volunteering as well, even on an event-based scenario if you have less time. But we want our members to actually be part of what we're delivering, because we are members as well. So this is not ours. It's all of us in it. So please use that feedback for this month specifically. We do provide credits for this presentation. You'll get an email from me, but also you'll get the recording as well posted within this week on our YouTube channel, as well on my ASQ, the presentation. So thanks, Nancy, again. Thanks, Kieran, as well, for always being here to share great insights as well. Thank you, and hope to see you again next month. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Sudita and Karen. Thanks, everyone, for attending. Thank you.
Thank you, and good luck to your cyclists there.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.